I feel like there's this idea that growth is supposed to be glamorous. That once you've done the work, you arrive somewhere and everything just becomes magically easier. But to be completely honest, it's exhausting. Hi everyone, my name's Lisa Cosham and welcome to the first ever episode of Self-Awareness Sucks. I want to start us off with something really simple. Have you ever noticed something about yourself and then immediately wished you hadn't? It could be a pattern, a habit, a way you react to things, or even just the way you think about something. And once you see it, it's just there, sitting in the back of your mind every time it happens. Because that's the thing about self-awareness. Once it starts, it doesn't really stop. And that's why I wanted to create this podcast. Not because I think self-awareness is a bad thing. If anything, I think it's the opposite. I think it's important because it's how we grow, how we change, how we understand ourselves better. But to be completely honest, it's exhausting. To me, being self-aware means noticing things about yourself and then actually having to deal with them. It's unlearning habits, changing how you react, catching yourself mid-pattern and stopping. It's educating yourself. It's confronting parts of yourself you might not even necessarily like. And then it's making a conscious choice over and over again to do something differently. And it becomes this constant, never-ending loop of noticing, questioning and deciding, and then starting all over again. And I also feel like there's this idea that growth is supposed to be this really glamorous thing. And I feel like we see it everywhere now, you know, that girl, that version of yourself, the glow up, the transformation, this whole aesthetic around becoming a better person that's somehow also perfectly curated and effortless looking. And it sets up this expectation that once you've done the work, you arrive somewhere and everything just becomes magically easier. Almost like there's a finished version of you waiting at the end of it. When really, there are moments where you think, oh, I really wish I didn't know that about myself. Because before you noticed it, you could just carry on as you were. What you didn't know didn't hurt you. What you didn't notice before didn't feel like a problem. Ignorance, in a way, was bliss. And now you've been confronted with this thing you've noticed and you have to decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to work on it or are you going to stay in the same cycle? And what makes it even more frustrating is that there isn't this big moment where everything suddenly clicks. There's no instant transformation, no overnight 180 like you see in films. And I feel like that's the part nobody really warns you about. So I wanted to create something that actually sits in that space, which is part of why I'm here and why I wanted to make this. So why me and why podcast? Well, honestly, talking has always come the most naturally to me. Growing up, pretty much every single teacher I had said the same thing. They'd give me good feedback, but my one downfall was that I just talked way too much. And even my mum has this story from when I was about 5 years old. She was really tired and just wanted some peace and quiet, and I was talking about anything and everything coming into my little brain. And she said to me, "Lisa, please, just 5 minutes." And apparently I turned to her and said, "But mummy, talking makes me happy." And if I'm going to be completely honest, that still holds true to this day. Talking especially when it means something, is actually where I feel most like myself. So a podcast just felt like a really appropriate outlet. But beyond loving to talk, language and how we use it has always been something I've thought about consciously. I grew up bilingual, I studied communication at university, and I'm also a creative writer. So I've spent a lot of time paying attention to word choice, tone, context, and how differently people can interpret the same thing. And through all of that, I've learned to notice patterns. This is actually a fairly recent realization I've had about myself, and it's sometimes completely involuntary. But I do think that noticing patterns it's a blessing and a curse when it comes to self-awareness, because it's the noticing the pattern of the habit or behavior you might want to change, working on it, and then, like I said, doing it all over again and again. And for me, I think this journey that I've been on really started during the pandemic. I really got into things like tarot and astrology, and whether you believe them or not, I personally found that they were really useful tools for reflection, and they gave me a sense of control in a time when things just felt really uncertain. But then from there, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole of personality-based things like Myers-Briggs tests and those like silly personality quizzes, anything like that, because I just wanted an external perspective. I wanted to understand who I was, how I came across, and how I could actually be a better person. In hindsight, I don't actually think I was in the best place at the time, but I do remember a very distinct feeling of not wanting to feel like I was anymore. And so I got into all of these various things, spiritual practices and researching self-improvement and self-help and watching YouTube videos, the full shebang. And I think that that's what really kickstarted my journey into self-improvement. But I had to learn a lot about myself in order to know exactly what it was that I wanted to change, because I had no idea when I first started. And so now here I am, making a podcast called Self-Awareness Sucks. And this podcast isn't going to be about hating self-awareness. It's more about what happens after you become self-aware or you have a moment of realization. I really want it to sit in that space of, I've learned something about myself, I can't unlearn it, now what do I do? And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not claiming to be either. And I'm definitely not here to be a motivational speaker or to call you out on anything. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I just want to share observations and experiences and have open, honest, and sometimes even raw conversations about things that maybe aren't talked about enough. And I've been on this journey for about 10 years or more now, and I haven't found an end. I'm still very much in it, and I definitely don't have all the answers, and I'm not claiming to that either. I'm not claiming to know what to do in every scenario. And I might even change my mind about the opinions I share as I go, but that's kind of the point. I don't want there to be any restrictions or limitations, because I want to have an actual discussion. We have so much content out there about self-help, self-improvement, growth, and we talk about it constantly, I think, in the present day. But I really do feel like we're always talking around it. We use like soft language, we use metaphors, and we keep it palatable. And I just want to be a little bit more direct than that. A bit more honest, because in my opinion, I think that's what's actually missing. Because I found in my own experience with self-awareness, sometimes it can feel quite lonely. Like maybe you're the only one having these thoughts, like everyone else has just got it together, and you're the only one quietly noticing these things about yourself and not quite knowing what to do with them, which from what I've seen on the internet, we've all kind of come to the realisation that we don't all have it together. But hopefully by sharing my personal experiences and thoughts, this provides a little bit of comfort and even companionship to anyone who's listening. And in future episodes, I want to explore a lot of different things under the umbrella of self-awareness. Things like communication and context, how what we say can be interpreted in completely different ways, what it means to be cringe and how that links to confidence and self-censorship and the fear of being misunderstood. Especially when you feel like you've done a lot of work on yourself and someone still gets you wrong, and how that can actually be quite hurtful. And I also want to explore whether we're ever really done. Like, is there actually an end point to self-improvement? Because the reality is, we're always changing. Something that felt right for you at 20 might not feel right at 40 or even 60. So yeah, this is where it starts. If you want to, feel free to leave comments or suggest topics, especially if there's something you've become aware of and you're still trying to make sense of it. Because if you've ever noticed something about yourself and thought, now what? You're in the right place. Thank you so much for listening and taking the time to get to know me a little bit. I'm sure you'll get to know me a lot more as the show goes on. So here we are. This is just the start. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!